right, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order and start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. Mrs. Lenihan? Here. Mrs. Icorn? Here. Mr. Gamble?
Here.
And I'll move to approve the minutes for May 17.
I have 20, I don't have 17.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 17th I do not have yet. No, I didn't have the report. Scratch that. I'll move to approve the minutes for May 20th.
I'll second that.
Mrs. Icorn?
Yes.
Mr. Gamble?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenihan?
Yes.
Then we go on to departmental updates. I see you've been busy.
Yeah.
You're tying up the roads in the neighborhood today.
Yeah, we were down that way. The road department stayed busy, like you said, finished up crack sealing, cleaning out ditches, mainly down there in Calumet right now. We have other ones to do too. Did a driveway pipe down on Wren for a resident. Reclaim and burn, cleaning up after the big rains, finding pipes we haven't seen in 15 years. It's been busy, that's for sure. Working on vehicles back there.
Can you explain the process again for the people when they're about to have their roads paved, how you contact them to let them know what's going to be happening?
I think we put out, we're gonna do flyers in the residential areas, so they'll know.
And how much notice will they receive?
what we're gonna do.
We'll send them out, those postcards within the fall. Andy's going to get you the addresses this week, so we'll go on. Hopefully by the end of this week.
Should we get?
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
So the fire department, we've been pretty busy taking runs. Our run volume is up 8% over last year this time. We've just checked every fire hydrant in every township in Powell. We just started on our hose testing, and half the department just recertified in pediatric life support. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you. You might as well stay standing.
I should. How's it going? Been busy, mowing grass, finally getting a little bit of dry weather, picking up trash. Playgrounds have been very busy here since schools got out, so trying to keep everything well maintained. Getting the summer help, some seasonal help in and things like that, so everything's coming around. Soccer's just about wrapped up and we should be moving into summer.
Thank you.
Board of Zoning Appeals had 2 meetings in May, heard 6 applications, and when you look at these, you can see we're getting into a pattern of what needs variances. So we're hoping that with these code revisions, things like the setback reductions for fencing, the whole accessory building issue is going to be straightened out. It did go through regional planning with conditional approval. They're still in legal, so once it hits legal, we'll move to the zoning commission public hearing and then to the Board of Trustees public hearing. So that'll be a couple months down the road. Zoning Commission had 1 meeting in May on which they approved a 1-year extension for Clark Shaw Reserve. Clark Shaw Reserve is being a little bit held up with the sewer, and then the Stites Road connection hasn't been completed. For the month of June, the Zoning Commission will be hearing the final development plan for the first pod, for the overlay, which is it'll be the Schertzinger track along the railroad track. So that'll be the first final development plan for that whole overlay, which The KFC being boarded up is kind of an issue. We've been reaching out to whomever we could. Boards have been removed. Nobody has contacted us, so we don't know who's going in, if it's been sold. I went past there today and nobody was there, so we haven't been contacted, but at least the boards are down, most of them. That's it. Any questions? Thank you.
For HR, we have one service milestone, which is firefighter Neil Brock with 15 years of service. As far as policies and other updates, you guys will be getting a new cemetery rules and regulations that we have to do. I think it's by the state, and Andy and I have been working on that. We have our property casualty and liability renewal policy, and that's in the packet for you for tonight. And we are in the process of completing the BNB reference checks on all employees, so we're in compliance with any motor vehicle regulations through the county and through our existing policy, which we're also updating. The transient vendors this summer, we took in about $1,500 in permit money, which is pretty good. There's only 2 registered vendors, which would be Moxie Pest Control and Active. So any other people that come to doors do not have the proper permitting to be in neighborhoods, and we are taking addresses for the Do Not Knock registry. We have an arbitration hearing coming up on June 10th. And I think other than that, that's about it.
Traditionally, we do the administrative part now, so I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce everybody to our new township administrator, Mr. Mike Schuling. We are very, very fortunate to have Mike on board. Mike has been a proven effective leader in Delaware County for very many years. He's had quite a few accomplishments in his years of public service. I was looking for someone who could help us in the areas where we needed some help. He has an extensive EMS background regarding training, performance, measurement, improvement, and we were very, very fortunate to bring Mike on board. So welcome aboard, Administrator Schultz.
Thank you, Jessica. I really appreciate that.
I don't know if you have anything you want to share with us since last Tuesday.
Yeah, in 8 days, it has been a whirlwind. I've spent probably about 10 hours a day just reading, bringing myself up to date on all the issues and projects that we've got going on in the township. I'm super excited to be here to dig into it. One thing I want to point out that I have an opportunity is I am absolutely blown away at the employees of this township and how they take so much pride in their service. So kudos to you guys. I am exceedingly impressed. And every time I meet somebody new, I am just, again, to see their excitement for what they do is so refreshing. And you've all heard me say it several times that, wow, what a great group of people. So I'm really excited. I'm really impressed and learning new things every day.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure next month I'll have a better report for you.
I'm sure you will have a lot to say, I'm sure. Okay.
We have Adam for
Yes, I saw you, Adam.
I'll just give one update today, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about measles. So currently, we have just under 1,000 cases nationwide. I will say Ohio does not have a case. We do not have a case in Ohio. But your health district is preparing nonetheless, because every state surrounding us except West Virginia has cases of measles currently. The scary thing about measles is 4 days before you show any symptoms, you can transmit the disease, and in a naive population, 90% of people are going to be infected. Of that, 1 in 4 people are going to go to the hospital, and about 1 to 2 per 1,000 are going to die. So we are working diligently trying to prepare. I would just stress that if you were born before 1957, you are considered immune. If you got the measles vaccine between 1963 and 1968, and it was the killed virus, you should be revaccinated. If you're not sure if it was the killed or the live, I wouldn't be. Check with us. If we have records, we can help you with that. If not, you can always receive another vaccination for it. So there are certain high-risk groups that should receive 2 doses, and those would be students at post-high school institutions, healthcare workers, and international travelers. Right now, luckily, we have nothing else to report in Ohio, but we are making our efforts. We are trying to plan where our dispensing locations would be if something should occur. So I just want you all to know that we are working on it. Luckily, there's nothing much more to report there right now.
So if all the children who had their MMR series, you know, in the recent past, are they as protected as they can be, or is there, what's the percentage of success rate with those?
Yeah, so 90 to 95% of people develop antibodies after 1 dose. The current school schedule calls for 2 doses. So long as the students are getting those 2 doses, they are highly likely to be protected against measles.
And why do they have to do it for their post-secondary education?
If they didn't get 2 doses, we've got commingling of folks who might not all be from the region. So you might have the disease introduced, much like international travel, you might be introduced to it. So if you didn't have that 2nd dose for whatever reason, we want to make sure we go ahead and give it to you.
I don't think they let you to other schools without it, do they?
Oh, yeah.
They'll let you to other schools without you too?
You just have to sign an exemption. I work for the bus, I do that, that's part of my job.
Okay,
And you just have to sign an exemption.
and then you're in.
You can go, yeah.
Okay,
That's why it's ready.
okay.
All right.
All
Thank you all.
right, thanks. Do I have anybody?
I'll check at the table and see.
Les Wiberly?
I just signed in because I had noticed there was a topic on the agenda about Jewett Road bike path, railroad crossing. So if that is still on the agenda when we come to it, I just signed up so that if needed, I can provide some background and some status information on that particular proposed project. So we can wait till we get to that agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was, we have taken that off. We're going to discuss that later down the road, just so you know.
Okay.
Do you want to share any information you have with us now that would be helpful?
Okay. So this has been a project we've been looking at for a couple of years. When Delaware County was designing the roundabout at Liberty and Jewett, we were pretty active in making sure that the complete streets policy of Liberty Township was adhered to. That is, when there's a major road improvement in Liberty Township, it is intended to also accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists as well as cars. And the design that they had was somewhat incomplete in that respect. So after a lot of negotiation, they agreed to continue the pathway around the roundabout, and they built a shoulder for a trail, but they said it's up to the township to build the trail going east on Jewett. The importance of that trail along there is that with the new design, once you come out of that roundabout, you're actually in a more dangerous position as a bicyclist than you were before, because it's just the lanes are divided and you're just in this narrow lane. Cars come out of that fast. So we really need a trail going from the roundabout, going east, across the railroad tracks to the first entrance to the residential area, because that is the only way people from east of Liberty Road in that area can get through other than by car. Okay, there's no safe pedestrian passage or bike passage. So it's a safety thing, which is kind of underscored by the fact that that is now identified by Liberty Township as a state bike route, and so it needs to be safe. It's also the major route between Worthington and the Olentangy Trail in this area. And as the new trail from River Bluff is built to High Banks, it'll be the only way we can get there from here. So the importance of that is And it also provides access to tile run from homes that are on the other side. There's a lot of reasons to build it. So the bottom line is last year, Liberty Township submitted a grant proposal to ODNR, and Opal supplemented that with a grant proposal of Preservation Parks, which would have covered the matching funds. That would have made it less expensive for the township.
Unless you wrote that, correct?
Yes, yeah, because there was an opportunity to get funding for Preservation Parks, and it was a complementary proposal that would have covered all of our matching funds, but we did not get the ODNR grant. So at this point, what we're proposing is that we go ahead and update that ODNR grant, figure out what the shortcomings are, resubmit it, and also resubmit a Preservation Parks grant to get the funding for this. So that's kind of where it stands from our perspective.
Okay, so, we identified Jewett Road as next on the list a while back. From what I understand, you have a meeting scheduled with Mike in the near future.
Right.
But I have a quick question.
Okay.
So when we had talked about the roundabout, we had talked about how it would lead on the north side of Jewett because the south side couldn't accommodate it. Is that still the case?
No, we're asking for a trail along the south side of Jewett because...
I mean to get to the tracks. Remember at the roundabout you said that you'd have to cross? Before the trail would take us to the north, just when you went around the roundabout, you would end up by the trail on the north side of Jewett. Is that still the case?
Well, the final design continues to trail all the way around all the way around the roundabout. So the recommended, for a couple of reasons. First of all, because Delaware County built the shelf on the south side of Jewett, and also because a number of years ago, due to complete streets, the Derby development granted right-of-way on the south side of Jewett to the township. So we basically have rights to that south side. And if you go around the roundabout, you can get all the way to that shelf, and then you're stopped.
Okay.
So continuing the trail on the south side of Jewett.
Okay.
seems to
The
be
north
best.
side goes right into a ditch.
Which is what we had planned all along, that it would be on the south side. But
Yes.
remember, in the initial phases of the roundabout, your concern was the cyclist was going to end up on the north side of Jewett and have to cross. Do you
That's-
remember that?
Yes, it's because the original design did not include bringing the pedestrian trail part all the way around the south side. It only went to the west side and then south.
So that's been accommodated.
Yes, that's been,
All right, so it dumps the cyclist off on the south side
right,
to the shelf, so we're good. So our I think the main issue we've discussed is how are we getting over the track? We're good on the whole south side, but we had talked about whether or not we wanted the device that goes up and down for cyclists. We got the pricing on that. We
Yeah,
thought it wasn't worth it. So do you think, in your opinion, do you think it's okay if we do not include that?
well, the problem is, we've been advised by Delaware County Engineering that they do not really want us to build a trail right up to the railroad tracks and just dead end.
Okay,
So the original quote Delaware County Engineering gave us was $371,000 for that trail.
right.
And a lot of that expense is the railroad crossing.
But I'm talking about the bar that comes up and
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Do you think we can live without the bar? The gate?
I personally do. The question is whether that would be allowed,
Okay,
because the railroad is very, very
yes.
particular about what they allow these days.
Yeah, it's hard to work with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but we're good, we're to the south side, we've got the ledge there, so all we need to do, have we completed the engineering, or is that completed?
Yeah,
All
that's-
engineering.
Last year, Delaware County did their engineering study and delivered that to the township, and that was incorporated in the grant proposal.
And just remind me, what's the width of the path that they quoted?
10 foot wide, yeah, that's the current standard for multi-use trails.
All right, but we aren't utilizing that elsewhere.
What's that?
We don't have 10-foot wide paths everywhere, do we?
No, but
Okay.
going forward,
That's our goal.
that is what's recommended by Morpsey ODOT and everyone else that issue standards for these things.
Okay, and so with the 10-foot wide, without the up and downs, or with the up and downs, we're 371?
Well, the 371 included the up and down, included the legal railroad crossing there.
All right, and were those like 4,250 apiece?
I don't have a breakdown
Okay.
with me. It's in both,
Okay, all right. All right,
so
thank you.
it would serve a lot of people if that trail were built. Be
I'm trusting to be
a
built.
good safety
Race.
addition to the townships.
Yeah, I think we've already committed to that.
Okay,
We
great.
just needed to get, the last I had heard, we were dealing with the north side, and what were we gonna do about that? But that's been accommodated.
Right,
And so now all that's left is building the trail.
yep.
Okay,
And the main challenge will be the railroad crossing. So,
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Resolutions, 19060301, purchase orders and blanket certificates.
I move to approve resolution 19060301. Second.
Mr. Amperline?
Yes.
Mrs. Icorn?
Hold on.
Yep. What's the version for? That would be that blanket that we approved for zoning.
Is the health insurance cash in lieu at 25 now, or is it, where are we at? We're at 25, Nancy? 25% of the cash in lieu?
Yes.
And that's all good. So we find
That
out.
was in the contract.
So this is new, okay.
Yes. Mrs. Lenihan?
Yes.
Resolution 2, approve bills and warrants.
Move to approve resolution 19060302.
Second.
Mrs. Icorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenihan?
Yes.
Mr. Amperline?
Yes.
Resolution 19060303, in the matter of authorizing an employee to incur obligations on behalf of the township to pay for work-related expenses and issuance of a credit card held by the board to such employee to pay for work-related expenses. And we have two of these. One is for Mike Schuling and the other is for Michael Landon. And these are the resolutions that the fiscal office was told they need to do from now on for anyone with a card in their name. So 0603 is for the issuance of a credit card to Mike Schuling.
Okay, move to approve resolution 19060303. Second.
Mr. Gemperline?
Yes.
Mrs. Icorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenihan?
Yes.
And then 19060304 is to issue a credit card for Michael Landon.
Move to approve resolution 19060304.
Mrs. Lenihan?
Yes.
Mr. Gemperline?
Yes.
Mrs. Icorn?
Yes.
Resolution 19060305 is to authorize the annual property casualty and liability insurance renewal and payment. And this is our annual PCL insurance coverage. It's through Oak Karma, but it's under the USI insurance coverage. The premium went up $1,941 this year versus last year. However, we did qualify, some they gave rebates, and we are getting a $3 rebate.
Move to approve resolution 19060305.
Second. Mrs. Icorn? Yes. Mr. Mr. Gemperling?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenihan?
Yes.
Resolution 1906-0306 is approving the hire of one full-time Parks and Road Services worker, Lance DeLong. And this is to fill the vacancy created by Kelton Petty's resignation in late April. And we posted it, interviewed, and he is currently going for his background check. So this would be pending successful completion of those checks.
All right, move to approve resolution 1906-0306.
Second.
Mrs. Lenihan?
Yes.
Mrs. Icorn?
Yes.
Mr. Gemperling?
Yes.
Resolution 1906-03-07, recommending approval of a Division of Liquor Control Transfer License application for Margello Development LLC, doing business as Liberty Station Sports Bar. And this is a transfer from, I believe it's just one name to another name. It's the same property. It's just a different owner, I believe.
Move to approve resolution 1906-0307.
Second. Mrs. Icorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenihan?
Yes.
Mr. Gemperling?
Yes.
Resolution 1906-03-08 in the matter of accepting the recommendation for formation of a Delaware County Pre-Hospital Care Board of Directors to oversee the operations and procedures for emergency medical services throughout Delaware County. And the wording up top will need to be changed. It does not match the bottom. So you can amend that as you want.
So I would just amend the whole, I just delete the whole first thing and go with whereas.
And just start with whereas.
So I'll move to approve resolution 1906-0308 minus the first sentence.
I'll second that.
Mr. Gemperling?
Yes.
Yep, sure.
I do want to say something because this one says to appoint the township administrator as the township representative. But my understanding is that the actual committee that was put together by the county, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, has it where who was invited was our fire chief. So my question is, and I know we get one vote, right?
Correct.
So are you going to be taking Chief O'Brien with you most of the time, or all the time? Because then I think that was going to be following through Chief O'Brien.
I intend to take Chief O'Brien with me to these meetings.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
I think that is absolutely important to continue to solidify Liberty Township's stance throughout this process.
Because yes, okay.
So, yeah, we discussed this, that Mike would be our representative, but that he would take with him any staff that he sees, necessary to get the township to be treated fairly.
But the Ohio Revised Code has our chief over the EMS, so any of those decisions going forward that they vote on, you're going to have him there, or we're going to have legal issues. So that's why I think it would be important that he would be with you at all those meetings.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, the motion's on the floor with a second.
Mr. Gemperling?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenihan?
Yes.
Mrs. Icorn?
Yes.
And I think that's the end. The last item, well, not the last item, but the last item for this section is to amend Resolution 19040103. We don't need to do a new resolution. This one just needs to be amended. This was the resolution to add one new fund for the township budget to accommodate the EMS soft billing account. And it is a minor change in that the ORC code that's referenced, which is ORC 505.441, should be ORC 505.84. So we just need, if you are see, we need a resolution or a motion to amend resolution 19040103 to change the ORC reference to ORC 505.84.
501.
505.84.
Okay, so I'll move to amend resolution 19040103 to note ORC code 505.84 in place of what it's referencing now.
Second.
And that'll be resolution 19060309.
We don't need a resolution, we do it by motion.
All right.
Mr. Gemperline?
Yes.
Mrs. Icorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenahan?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is a discussion on Township Hall, and I asked for this to be on. We have a request from a citizens group if they can use the hall on repeated occasions. And I'm also getting new requests in from HOAs, and we've received somewhat conflicted guidance from our prosecutor's office on whether we can limit the usage or if it's a better idea to stop the usage. So with Mike being new, he's going to be the one to approve or disapprove, and I don't know what the direction of the board should be or is.
So since the prosecutor's office didn't give us a definitive answer, we probably need to seek legal counsel who knows the answer.
I don't know if I get comfortable spending money when you have townships all around us that run out their township halls. If we're having any issues or there's any rule breaking, then I think we would address that with that one organization itself. I think to limit the use of this to our taxpayers when that's not standard around here, I don't think is worth spending any money on or any future guidance.
And I hate to do it too, but in other townships, the same group of people are not violating all the rules of the contract and refusing to come into accordance with the rules. We're really not sure how to address it. They put our chief in bad position. They put the taxpayers in a highly liabilious position, and they don't seem to care.
I don't agree with any of those statements, but okay.
Okay, they continue to break the rules. You can't be having food trucks placed on our parking lots without permission of the township. You can't have private citizens wandering around the bays of where our emergency vehicles are leaving and coming in. It's very libelous. Our chief agrees. It's highly libelous. We put our battalion chief in a very bad predicament to have to go out there, and the sheriff had to come to have them leave. And the person who signed the contract, which clearly states that they have to be here, wasn't. There are other times where there's refusal to leave the room. So what we want is a safe environment for everybody. We want a safe environment where the taxpayers aren't put in any kind of libelous position. You can't have private citizens running around the bay of a fire station. It's just not safe.
Well,
And you
going back
can't
to,
have little children running over to food trucks that aren't supposed to be there in our parking lot.
but again, going to legal counsel and spending the money on this, what are you expecting in return from legal counsel? Because you can't tell me we are the only organization that's ever had a group that has broken a rule and it had to deal with that. That to me, we're wasting money.
It's not one time, Shira.
It's
Kathy, do you want to state how many times that organization has broken rules?
But it doesn't matter in the fact of you're talking about, what matters is we're talking about
So we
your
have to
same
find out,
organization.
we have to find out if we can legally prevent that organization and still make the township available to everybody else. Because we can't continue to allow this private group of citizens to put the rest of our taxpayers in a libelous position.
And what did the prosecutor's office say? Because I read the email today.
He told me that you cannot restrict any one group no matter what they do or if they adhere to the contract or not. That the only way you can do that is to shut it down for everyone or everyone can use it.
And he said he did not recommend the resolution that he had attached, but that a trustee had requested that resolution, so I'm not sure which trustee requested that resolution.
What is the resolution?
The resolution was to then, here I can pull it up and I can read it. resolution is to establish a policy pursuant to Ohio Revised Code and to no longer rent or lease the Liberty Township, Delaware County, Ohio Township Hall meeting room. And that was, so across the board, you could not. While in here he says, we do not recommend adopting such a policy change. When I asked him, then who asked for the resolution, he said one of the trustees.
And I will say, when I had my conversation with him after the food trucks, he did recommend that so much.
Yeah, the prosecutor's office has been all over the place on this. They did say initially, just stop because it's dangerous, and they agreed. We are in a very libelous situation. Anybody gets hurt in this space, that's on us.
I'm just reading what was sent today, where it clearly said they didn't, or yesterday did not recommend this, and
So,
the trustee had asked for that resolution. So
So
if you
he's
did it, I'm
all over
assuming
the board.
trustee Gepperline did. So neither of us said, nobody here had asked for that resolution?
no, I didn't ask for a resolution like that.
I
called-
think he took it
what
from
I-
our conversation.
In fact, I didn't even talk to him about it. I've never had a conversation with him about it. So, but I think what Kath is asking is, what are we gonna do about it? The prosecutor's office has been all over the board. Our taxpayers have been put in a libelous, position. What do we as a board of trustees, how do we wanna address that? What would you propose?
Well, I propose that if you sincerely think a group is continually breaking the rules, then they wouldn't be allowed to use the space.
But that's what he's saying we can't do.
No, what he's saying is across the board saying that you can't let anybody ever use it. That's what that's saying.
He's saying that it's everybody or nobody, and that you can't stop this group alone. That's what he's saying. But he's also saying he's not really sure.
But here's the thing, if you go to private and we spend the money on it, they're going to come back and they're going to say what we always hear. Anyone at any time can sue you. You can't tell me that you can just open up the doors to everyone and anyone and not have any kind of rules. And if it's consistently being broken, then you can make a case in front of the judge. We are going to spend money for legal counsel to basically say the same thing. Well, here's our best idea that you can do, but you're still going to be open to being sued.
Can we write rules that apply to everyone?
We have those,
We
we
have
have
those.
continue to violate. The one
Yeah.
suggestion is that we
It is
just,
not everybody in the organization. It's certain specific
And
individuals.
the rules state that if you break these rules, you will not be allowed to use them. Probably, perhaps we need to add that rule.
well,
What is
from
that?
what Vince
Apply
said,
it to everyone.
we can't limit it. We can't, because someone doesn't follow the rules of the contract, we can't disallow them from using the space. It's very bizarre.
What
and
can you do?
We can either say no one uses it, or we have everyone how it is now, but we have a stronger enforcement from the sheriff's office, which is hard to
So
do.
I'm hearing that as we have no choice.
The other, we can set,
Not allowed.
but can set standard rules, like we can say, which we had talked about, you can't use the room won't be rented out on any days that there are township meetings, whether they're board of trustee meetings, BZA meetings, or zoning commission meetings. We can add things like that. So that will help, but
For the last fiasco or circus, there was no meeting, and they just had food trucks parked in our public places.
Discretion, there will be, I'm not mistaken.
Okay, that's right. So maybe that's something we could do, to try to inhibit those rules.
As far as a food truck, I mean, who in the world would think they have the authority to buy a food truck in this property?
Who believes he had the authority to do that?
it was through Save Our Services.
Who was the individual who called the food trucks?
I'm not sure who called them. Becca was the one that reserved the room that night. Nico Fernando was up here. It was my understanding from the gentleman in the food truck that he contracted with Nico, but I don't know
So
that.
As
Nico
a trustee,
Fernando-
I don't have the authority to do that.
He believes he did, apparently. He did, he contacted more than one.
That's ridiculous.
It is, and now it's making things difficult for all residents. Maybe we start by saying, no, nothing on days of any scheduled meetings.
Why don't we just
we already do.
They are already.
Say it again?
Why do we restrict?
Why don't you just put a licensing fee at a food truck in the law?
We do, they come to the Liberty Township.
Park and we have a contract with them.
And it's specific to this property.
No, Liberty Township Park, where the children come.
I don't think any one of them would want to have a contract here because
The cross traffic from the ball fields and the
My point
emergency
is,
exit is
if you put a
dangerous.
licensing fee on it, and someone violates the rule, then you can hold the person who signed the contract liable for the licensing fee. So at least you have some form of, instead of starting to restrict citizens, and I realize that you may have some issues with the SOS group. I'm sure you do, and I'm sure that you would like to have better control over the use of your facility, which isn't a bad idea. I totally agree about not having people.
We'll check it out at the end, but what we really want to do is protect taxpayers from a liability.
And that's fine, so which is why you put a penalty in to say that if you sign a contract and you bring a food truck and you don't sign, and then you don't have a X licensing fee for the food truck, you're liable.
Well,
Here's the question, is that the first time a food truck has ever been on this property?
it's not been an issue. And the concern with that is when there's games going on, you have kids crossing.
running back and forth, it would make a fire
I'm not
vehicle.
suggesting you make
So
it.
we would never want, ever put a food truck in this property because we have fire trucks.
So is there a specific prohibition against food trucks on this property?
Maybe that's what we do. We're going to pass a resolution prohibiting any food trucks. I mean, but you think
That
that
goes
goes
without
without
saying
saying.
here.
But
They're not allowed
it's a
here
public
anyway.
property.
Exactly.
People don't know the rules for public properties necessarily. So if you have a specific concern.
Yeah, there's just so many things that that
Well,
are allowed here, and it goes without saying it's common sense. I mean, it's common sense that you don't call a food truck and have them go into a.
How many times has that occurred?
If it's only, if it's only the trustees have expressed their unhappiness with it and are willing to make a rule to say, we don't want food trucks on this property, I would actually put it both. I would say, no food truck vehicles that might obstruct the fire lanes or cause people to cross in front of fire lanes.
We would never have a food truck here because we would
That's
have
my
to approve
point.
it.
Then-
We would have to approve a food truck.
And what I'm saying is, if there's no
We'll never
rule,
do that.
if there's no rule, make a rule. Don't start taking citizens and saying, you can't use the facility you pay for because somebody had food trucks.
And it wasn't just food trucks, we have repeated violations of several rules. So that the issue isn't just the food trucks. It's-
Well, my name is Janet.
No, you may not, ma'am. We're not,
Well, he's
it's not that
but
time.
I'm not allowed to.
It's not that time.
Transparency.
If we can look into it, we can look into what Ian suggested about possibly having a licensing fee, but at the end of the day, we're not on a food truck here, so why would we have?
Well, has
a
it
We are-
has it happened again? I mean, it
Somewhere
happened
down.
one time.
Ma'am, please.
I would say,
Please, really,
if there is no rule,
be reasonable.
Then why do we need resolutions?
Yeah, we don't need a resolution for that because you're not allowed to have it here. So why would we have a resolution for
I mean, give us a
licensing?
message.
because typically
Messages
if a
received.
public entity doesn't have a rule against it, it's typically permitted. Right? I mean,
No.
that's, so you're
No,
saying,
this property is not for the use of a food truck, and it never has been. It's not for commerce. It's not, that is clearly.
As trustee, I ain't not being well, I don't have the authority to invite a food truck.
So, Kathy, why don't we start with a resolution for no rental facility on any days of any meetings? So,
Of township trustee meetings.
and BCA meetings, or any public, or any government meetings. So if it's BCA or zoning commission or board of trustees, or, any public government.
Township official.
So we can do
It's a good
that.
idea for the zoning to just.
Whole day.
Prior to.
Every
Sometimes
entire
they
day,
get together prior to.
after 4 o'clock, or 2 o'clock, or they have a meeting. So if anybody wanted to use it in the morning or in training,
I think the day out is fine, I mean, that's just one day. And the HOA is at least 6 other days.
So I will revise the policy.
So do you want us to pass a resolution to,
You can, or I can make the changes to the policy, and then you guys can approve a new policy at the next meeting.
okay. Sound good?
Sound good?
Fine. You'll have tax increase, right?
Correct.
Interesting.
All right, so you put 2 million into the safe or the bond or the investment account. It came out of fire.
It's not all from fire, but most of it's fire.
All right, and then how much is left in the fire account? After you took out 2 million.
Well, the budget is covered.
Excess, what, around 6 million you said surplus? With no 43% tax increase, which would have been an additional $15 million to date.
Correct.
So what happens in 2020? What happens then in 2023 to that 6 million surplus that we have? 23. If you look it out, because I've sat down with the numbers to look at what the surplus is today and what it will be in 2023. So when I looked at it, looked at the numbers and studied, you'd be left with $500,000 at the end of 2023.
We'll be bringing in an excess additional $1 million a year.
This is with everything, and I've got the numbers.
Okay,
She's forgetting to get money every year.
No, I'm not forgetting anything, so I don't have the chart on me, but I can send it out to you all. So before we start throwing numbers about rollbacks, I think we need to make sure that you're looking out to
Did
2023.
anyone mention the word rollback?
I think so.
In this meeting, was the word mentioned?
I'm not really sure. I'd have to go back and look through the notes, but I
Talking
think,
about tonight.
well, actually, Trustee Gepperline, I did bring up the rollback months ago, back in December, when we talked about different ways that the voters could vote
I
on it.
understand. I was referring to this evening.
I think we know where you're going.
No, we weren't talking about rollback.
All I'm trying to say is you're making your remarks about how much overflow we have and from the levies and the numbers I know that were sent to you, and I'm just simply saying that if you look at it at just 1 year, there's a big difference if you look at something in 1 year and not long term. So I was asking you if you're focusing on today or next year, did you focus out to 2023? Because if you look at any kind of levy, and especially with the development that we are passing, that you have more extra in the beginning and you don't have as much at the end. So it looks like we have more excess now. So all I'm trying to say is when we sit there and make comments that we have $6 million, I think that's a little misleading to our public when you're not looking at what it's going to look all the years out. That's the only thing that I was trying to point out.
I'm again looking at all the years out. In other words, what you're saying is the 43% increase should have passed.
And we should have an additional 15 million.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is you're sitting there.
These are the fiscal numbers of the fire department.
No, what I'm saying is you're sitting out there and you are saying there's $6 million out there. All I'm trying to say is that's misleading. If you're trying to say like we're going to keep having this $6 million through the years, because we're not. Because by 2023, we will only be down to $500,000. So that's what I was saying. Have you looked at those numbers long term?
Okay, well, I would say it's not misleading at all. Right now, we have over $6 million surplus in fire, and what Mike was bringing up is we'd have, in addition to that $6 million surplus, we'd have an additional $15 million had a 43% tax increase passed. So that's what he's talking about. It's not misleading at all. These are numbers. However, your fiscal officer disagrees strongly with you.
That's fine.
So
That's fine.
that's
We can
her
work.
job.
Well,
She
we'll
gets,
consider.
that's what she's elected to do, the numbers, and she doesn't know where you're getting at. But you
That's
can
fine.
share with
I will
us.
share with all those, and I worked with the fire department, and I worked through all their numbers, and I think they are quite confident they looked through everything, so we can definitely do that. And speaking of that, since I know we can be putting money into an investment, which is great because we're getting money back, we did have another accident at Atkins this past weekend, so I am hoping, and I think there's going to be continued conversations about that I said that we would bring that back up tonight. I didn't want to bring it back up tonight on a resolution, but to at least let the residents know that we're hoping that some additional discussions happen between Andy, between our Administrator Schuling, with Nancy, because we certainly can't continue to have those accidents.
No.
Because we're told we didn't have money, I think we need to revisit that.
Agreed. Okay, so
That's it.
anything else, Nancy? Okay. Good. All right, I'm going to move to go into executive session for ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, motion to motion of compensation of a public employee.
Second.
Mr. Gentherly?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenahan?
Yes.
Mrs. Icorn?
Yes.